This is Anthony Galliano, your host. Today, we're going to talk to the Executive Director of AmCham, which is Erich Phillips, and the Chairman of AmCham, which is Allen Dodgson Tan.
How you doing?
Okay. And you happen to have the Treasurer of AmCham. By what do we call it? Disclosure? Yes.
We almost have a quorum.
We almost have a quorum and have a board meeting. But anyway, the important thing is to talk about some of the incredible things that have been going on with AmCham. There's been some changes which have been very positive, some initiatives which has been extremely positive. So first, I think people got to get to know you. That's how we say it here, right? So Alan, could we have a little bit of background about you?
Sure.
Where you're from, where you grew up. You had a little bit of a military career as well.
That's correct.
And came back to Cambodia. So all interesting stuff. We could spend a whole show on you alone.
Well,
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thanks, Anthony. So my name is Allen Tan, right? And as Anthony said, currently the chairman of AmCham. I've been involved with AmCham for about 4 years now. First, just volunteering on committees and joining the board. And I found that to be a pretty excellent way to get to know the business community here. Currently, I'm the director of applied technology for a nonprofit product development lab called Golden West Humanitarian Foundation. There we develop products here in Cambodia using advanced technologies that are exported around the world. And what those products are used for is disposing of weapons. So it's those products are sold to humanitarian groups and militaries for the purpose of getting rid of the bad stuff, basically. Before that, I was in the U.S. Army for 7 years. I did bomb disposal, not surprisingly.
Wow.
And
That's a pretty tough thing, right? Pretty nerve-wracking job.
yeah, it's challenging. It's definitely challenging, but I think that's why you want to do it,
That's
right?
why you have such cool nerves, right?
Well, I don't know, yeah. But I'm also half Cambodian. My dad was born in Phnom Penh, became a refugee after the Khmer Rouge, emigrated to the United States. And my mom is Anglo-American, and I was born in San Francisco about a year after my dad arrived in the United States as an immigrant. So I come back here, I guess, as a kind of
Call them repats, right?
yeah, it could be, right? My first time coming to Cambodia, though, was moving here. So it actually it's been an amazing journey to see this country too. And having come here in 2010, as we were just talking about, there's been amazing change in business and the lifestyle for Cambodians and the lifestyle for anybody living here and the opportunities really that have come.
So what drove you to return from living in San Francisco, which is a nice place?
Right. Honestly, the reason I returned here was for work. So yeah, when I left the Army, there was a position open in exactly what I wanted to do here. So I ended up coming here with no Cambodian language skills, I might add. So I had
How are
none
they
of those
now?
advantages. They're about the same.
So no
Shameful.
Cambodian language
No, you're
skills.
lying.
Shameful, I'll say. I won't say no skills. I'll just say they should be a lot better.
And Eric has you're a returnee. I don't think people realize this, but was it 2 years ago you were on our show? Or?
Yes, absolutely.
You were talking about
for
your
a
restaurant hospitality
different
adventures.
capacity.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So, been in Cambodia for about 6 years. My wife and I moved here. We spent some time in China for a little bit. I get involved in startups, and she's involved in education. She's the art teacher at ISPP for the elementary campus. But 2 years ago, you're right, I was here for talking about my craft brewery, Cerevisia Craft Brewery.
Which has become more and more famous.
Well, thank you. I hope so. And we have 2 restaurants as well. And that's what, and thank you again for inviting me back.
You could say what the restaurants are. So
Sure.
This is a little marketing. Botanico.
Please visit Botanico, yes, near Independence Monument on Street 29. And also we have a new restaurant that's got the grand opening. It has the grand opening this weekend. That's near Pasakandao on 144.
And they're garden restaurants, hanging out in a nice leafy atmosphere,
Absolutely.
drinking some craft beer,
Focused on the
eating
craft
some
beer we
good
make.
American and Khmer food, or just American?
It's mostly American food at our 144 location.
Right.
Barbecue and craft beer. And then Botanico is an eclectic mix of interesting items.
So, this is a recent appointment as Executive
Absolutely.
Director.
Mm-hmm. November 1.
What made you interested in becoming the Executive Director of AmCham?
Actually, that was a twist of the arm. No, I think that owning restaurants and being a part of food and beverage and hospitality is actually not that large of a leap to what AmCham does, which is connecting people, being a part of the community, and most importantly, providing resources to folks to grow their business and grow their network. And that's what I was doing actually in my business before, and I think that's what I'm doing now.
How many months are you on the job now?
This is the start of my third month. Yeah.
Welcome aboard, and it was
Thank
great
you
to
so
have
much.
you. We should talk about what AmCham is. And AmCham's been around, I should know this, but I think 1998,
isn't it?
Six by the manner in the office.
Yeah,
that's right.
there we go.
So AmCham's actually celebrating now 22 years.
Wow.
Yeah, we just had our 20-year gala now 2 years ago. It makes
Right.
sense.
So we're having our 22 years in Cambodia as a business chamber. So, Alan, first of all, what is a business chamber? Because I think a lot of the audience may say, what is a business chamber? What does it do? And then how does AmCham fit in as a business chamber in Cambodia?
That's great. That's a great question, and one that we get asked a lot, I think all of us. So a business chamber is a group of businesses that get together and decide they have some shared interests and some goals they can try to achieve together, whether it's in the community, some social goals they can also be regulatory goals, they can be just getting to know each other and helping facilitate the business relationship between each other. And all of those things are really great. And AmCham does exactly that. We are comprised of businesses from America doing business in Cambodia, Americans starting businesses in Cambodia, and also Cambodians seeking to do business with the American community and with America, right? So our focus is firmly on the trade and business with and among Americans and American companies. However, the way that the world is now, as we know, it's very global. And so we see that there's many ways that we touch each other through the supply chain, through business relationships, and socially, which make AmCham very appealing for a lot of people who are looking to build that network and to have those connections and also have that influence. You know, they say you're stronger when you stand together, of course, and as a business community, that's very true when speaking with regulators about what regulations might, how they might impact business, and communicating that with one voice instead of many small voices can be useful for businesses. So,
Eric, I'll ask you this because when people think of the American Chamber of Commerce, and we shouldn't possibly turn off people that are not American because
Sure.
It's actually the chamber is not a huge amount of American companies in the American Chamber of Commerce.
That's correct.
So, I mean, everybody's welcome,
Right.
and it's a great mix. So can you tell us a bit about the membership?
You don't have to be American to be a part of the American Chamber of Commerce, number one. But yes, they're
And you don't have to be American to be on the board. Is that correct as well?
well, that's under debate.
Okay.
Just joking. No, absolutely. In fact, I think that our board is fantastic. It's a very eclectic mix of leaders in our industries, and I'm quite impressed with the dynamic of our board.
But you don't have to be an American company to be part of the
not at all.
American. And there's no preferences over American companies. Anybody that meets the criteria to join as a business can join. So
Absolutely.
what is the criteria to join?
So those who are interested in applying to be a part of the American Chamber of Commerce, there's different levels, and of course there's SMEs, small and medium enterprises. There's also NGOs as well, and of course there's corporate levels that if you're interested in getting your name out there and you're a new organization and you want to market yourself, excellent. If you are looking to reach out into the American market, this is a great first step to be a part of that. Also, if you're, of course, an American business entering into Cambodia, this is where you want to start as well. This is a launch pad for a lot of
You
organizations.
could be sponsors as well, right?
Absolutely.
You have your platinums and golds, and
Mm-hmm.
we always encourage platinum and gold.
Platinum would be where we want everyone to be, right?
absolutely.
So, Alan, I think there's been some initiatives and some pretty high-profile, I would say, recently initiative that the Chamber has done, which has taken some positions to in terms of the country and how it relates to the U.S. and the U.S. government. So, first, can we say, before we get into that part, what are some of the initiatives that the board does, the Chamber does, in terms of relationships with the Cambodian government, relationships with the U.S. government?
Absolutely. And I'd like to preface that by saying we are a completely non-political, non-religious organization. We follow American standards as well of ethics and of equal opportunity, so we're non-discriminatory on any basis. So as an organization, we approach things from the perspective of what is good for business and the community around business. It's not a cutthroat approach like we don't want to pay our workers. No, we think about the whole community around business and making sure that the community is happy with us and making sure we're treating our workers the way we would want to be treated and as we would want our family treated. That's all very important part of our American values. So we approach policy in that way as well, but we do advocate for policies that are good for business in Cambodia and specifically good for the American business relationship in Cambodia. And that's our duty, really as an organization, our duty to our members. So most recently, we wrote a letter as AmCham to the U.S. Congress, that is our equivalent to the Parliament, the House and the Senate. And we said in this letter that we would oppose the idea of the United States government putting blanket sanctions on Cambodia. And the reason that we oppose that is because there's lots of very good, legitimate business here in Cambodia that's helping to build this country up and lift a lot of people out of poverty here, as well as being great for American businesses. So, sometimes people think of businesses as just being very mercenary and just for the profits. But I think a lot of us that are here in a place like Cambodia who are running legitimate businesses and trying to build them here, we look at it a lot differently than that. And we value the contribution that we bring to Cambodia's development and in lifting the country out. And a blanket sanction would simply turn back all that progress and create a very adversarial relationship, which would not benefit the people of Cambodia, the people of America, or business. So we took a strong position on that by writing that letter.
You had some great coverage by the Cambodian press on this as well. It was picked up in the Post and the Times and several other publications. So how has the response been in Cambodia and overseas?
Well, I'll tell you, overwhelmingly positive. Of course, the groups advocating for sanctions in the United States are not particularly happy with this. But again, we come at it from a non-political stance. So we're not advocating for any political party or any political dogma or approach on that. It's simply saying that this would not be good for the businesses here. And the businesses here have overwhelmingly appreciated it and have come to, I know me personally, and I think probably both of you as well, and cited this policy letter as being kind of a key piece of what AmCham can do in terms of advocacy for their business.
I think the board was pretty unanimous in doing it. There was no pushback at all. So yeah, I think yes, and we all kind of appreciated the effort, and it took a position which sometimes it's controversial to take positions, but
yeah, sure.
But I think the market was very receptive and it was courageous to an extent because. I think earlier chambers were not willing to publicize their position as much as you did. So that was a pretty courageous.
Well, as much as we did. So all of the board, we signed our names to this thing. Right. It was unanimous, and we wanted to be clear that these things don't need to happen in the shadows. And to be quite frank, this again is a very much part of us. Our American philosophy is to speak about to our government, to the United States government, about what we think is the right and the wrong before it happens. That's our right and our duty.
Again, back to you, Erich.
Please.
I want to talk a little bit about some of the events that we do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
There's a lot of fun in networking, with cocktails and winning prizes. Which a lot of chambers do, but there are some very substantive events, breakfast talks, and a very big one coming up very soon, which is going to have His Excellency Mani,
Absolutely.
Right. So why don't you talk about events in general and some of the bigger ones we've done and the real big one coming?
Absolutely. So my goal, especially in this position, is to add value to membership. Pure and simple. And the way that I see adding value is actually trying to get people engaged, our membership engaged in AmCham. And that starts really at the committee level. And so we have about 5 different committees that are driven by our interests from our members. It's not something that the board cooks up. It's not something that I suggest. It's actually coming from our membership base saying, this is an important topic for me. I'd like to have us move in this direction. Please help. And that's the best thing about AmCham is that it's a collective voice of business leaders. And that's where the committees are the most important. It's kind of the heart and soul, in my mind, of AmCham. So these committees, and one of them being legal and taxation, they have put together this event on January 24th with Hun Maning, His Excellency Hun Maning. And so he is going to be speaking about the relationship between Parliament and the legal sector and how laws are created in this country and how that actually affects and helps the business sector.
Okay.
So
we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in a moment after this commercial message. Alan, you have these advocacy committees, and we just touched upon one being the legal and tax. What are the purpose of the committees, and what are the initiatives that they're undertaking?
Absolutely. As Erich mentioned, it's important to note that as AmCham, we're a membership organization. There's no top-down kind of structure where somebody's pushing this stuff down on the membership. It's quite the reverse. So our committee agendas are driven by the committee members. And who can be a committee member? Any AmCham member can join any of these committees. And this is your point where you can have an impact and have your voice heard. And that's really important if we look at the real estate sector, if we look at the education or workforce development sector, or we look at legal and taxation or government relations. These are all places where people have interest. So where else are we active? A good example of that is more recently the PRCA from the Labor Department about seniority payments. Right. So this is a recent issue, and it's one that thankfully all the business community has kind of come together from all the different chambers to work on this issue. But it's one again where AmCham is also participating and having the voices of our business, our member businesses heard. And
I noticed two committees which are very powerful. Not that they all are, but the women's entrepreneurship and the women's committee, which is taking a position on that. Could talk a little bit about that and the startup sort of views that we have on startups and entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think the women's group that is formed within AmCham, this is an amazing one because it's formed completely organically. This was not a strategic decision. This was a group of business women of all ages from all different sectors who came together and said, we would like to start this group to support each other and to support our businesses and learn from each other. And so AmCham has just this month started this women's group officially, and we'll have many events will come out of that. And that has a very high membership amount in that committee.
And our tech committee also is very, very active.
Absolutely. I mean, we by no means does the United States own the tech space. However, we have a lot of credibility in that space, I'll say, and so that culture of startups, Silicon Valley or on the East Coast, these centers that we have of technology innovations and just business innovation in general, and entrepreneurship and startup, is something that we can bring a lot of value to the table. And we want to bring in those young startups. We have a new membership level that's quite low. It's $50 a month or $50 a year.
For startups.
Yeah, for a startup, $50 for your first year. And that allows these young entrepreneurs to make those contacts in the greater business community without having to really put themselves in a bad position there, because we want to have that role also as mentors and as facilitators for growth for our member companies. And
so the other thing I find is very important that we do is the interaction with other chambers. EuroCham,
sure. OzCham,
yep. This Cham, that Cham. This is a very integral part of your role, is to interact with the other chambers. So how does AmCham interact with the other chambers?
Well, the first thing I would say is that we don't view other chambers as competition. It's just a level of business and the relationship you want to have in that business community. Of course, we have members that are a part of different chambers as well. In fact, on our board, we have the chairman of OzCham.
That's right.
Yes.
I think we also have someone from EuroCham.
Maybe.
In committees, at least.
Committee, yeah. Oh, and you actually have the wife of the husband that's the chairman of BritCham. I don't know if that
that's
counts.
right. That's right.
That is true. That's true.
I don't know if that counts.
So the first thing I would say is we don't view other chambers as competition. It's definitely a collaborative piece because really it's just about growing and developing business here in Cambodia, and whatever means possible in a healthy and effective way.
And one of the most popular events in Phnom Penh is inter-chamber events. So how do these come about? And the attendance is amazing.
Absolutely. In fact, we had one for kind of the holiday season, and it was a relationship between the Japanese chamber, the Brit chamber, and ourselves. And so I think there were about over 240 people that attended that event.
That's a great event.
It was. At raffles. Yeah.
Okay, so talking about the future, it's noticeable AmCham's changed quite a bit over the last 6 months. It has a pretty fresh new board. Restructuring its committees to be have more of an impact. Just created the real estate and construction committee, I believe. Right. What are the future initiatives of AmCham?
So I don't want to take the wind out of Erich's sails here. Please. So he has some great initiatives. As coming on as the new executive director, I'd like to say that he came in with a mandate to create that value for the members and to make AmCham not only a place for business, but a place for the American community to come together as well. I think our goals for the business community are to increase the advocacy that we do, and that includes in Washington and our integration with the ASEAN regional chambers. So we're reaching out to those chambers. We want to provide access to regional events as well for our members, and have that voice back in Washington with our representatives and the different business interest groups that are there, so that we can tie Cambodia a little bit more in with, again, that regional and back to the United States with that network, which will help our businesses here because we can help provide those contacts and facilitate those relationships for them.
Before we get to Erich's initiatives, let me ask about the relationship with the U.S. Embassy here and the U.S. government. How does that work with the American Chamber of Commerce?
That's a great question, because some people may think we're a part of the embassy. Some people might think that the embassy runs us. In fact, U.S. Chambers of Commerce, they're run independently in every country, but they are certified by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which is in Washington, D.C. Now, we aren't told what to do. We're autonomous. Again, we're told what to do by our members, by our board, right? And that's what's important. But they set certain standards for our conduct, for our accounting, for our governance procedures. And that's a great thing that they do that for chambers around the world.
You make visits to Washington once in a while.
Exactly. I'll have another one in February.
Carrying the flag for us.
Yep. I had one about 6 months ago. I'll have another one in February, meet with lawmakers and also with U.S. Chamber. Our relationship with the embassy is a really great one. They have a person in the U.S. Embassy here, as with every embassy, who is there for commerce, for trade between the two countries. That's their job. And that person their job is also to relate with us here and to see where we can find synergies in what we're doing. Because, of course, the U.S. Embassy is running an event, say, bringing in some people from the United States to look at agricultural trade, which we had a few months ago. AmCham can bring a lot to the table with our local contacts and network. Mm-hmm. And so we work very well together in that way. But it's very much a collaborative relationship. And again, AmCham is independent of the embassy, but we work very closely together to make sure that we can help businesses as much as possible. So sometimes a business will request a meeting, might come through us, and we might reach out to the embassy and say, hey, can you come and attend this meeting because it would really benefit this business? And likewise, they might have somebody traveling in and say, hey, can you guys come to this meeting and help orient these guys a little bit locally? So,
Erich, some of your 3 months in this hot seat.
I think it's 2 months and 10 days, but who's counting?
What's your plans?
I appreciate the question. First off, when I started November 1st, the most important thing was to build a team. And so we've got a fantastic administrative team right now. Jimmy is a part of business services and really ramping up, the value of our membership. Sunday, who's been with us for a number of years, she continues to do marketing communication as well as the event planning. And of course, Niet, who kind of keeps all the cogs moving in our machine. And so she's fantastic as well. So we've got a great team that can actually deliver on what we promise. And what we're looking to roll out this year are a number of things to really create a holistic approach. First, of course, we do business-related events. So it's all about education, helping the business sector understand what's happening here in Cambodia, whether it's tax, whether it's legal, whether it's how to develop your business and grow. So business side of it and the education side of it is, of course, the biggest piece. Most people know chambers because of the social networking. Yes, we do that. But I'm trying to approach this in a different way because there's many different ways that people want to be social. Sometimes they want to be social in cocktails and a nice dinner, and sometimes it's sports. Or sometimes it's some sort of recreational activity, like we're going to have a go-kart race.
Oh, I can't
on
wait
the
for this
9th
one.
of February.
You'll see me there.
And
Where's that going to be?
so there's a go-kart track here in Cambodia.
Yeah, I heard.
And so we're going to rent out that facility. We've already talked to the owner, Barry, over there. And we're going to have a corporate, we're going to call it Ambassador's Cup. And this will be a monthly different sport that corporations will be able to participate in. Some high level, where it might be soccer or football. And then things that are more approachable like go-karts.
Will we see you on the track?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah.
Wearing a helmet.
Of course.
But my goal specifically is to reach all of our members at their level. And so sometimes the cocktail hours, where they're great for some people, they're not great for everybody. So,
well, you get great. You have very good attendance, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Last question then, before we sign off, which is to you, Alan. So you've been, as you said, Cambodia, I guess since 2010, if I remember correctly. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct.
You've seen tremendous change over the next 8 years. What's your sort of view of Cambodia from a business point of view, because we are a business chamber? How do you see it the next 10 years, next 5 years?
That's excellent. So, as well as the things that I mentioned before, I also started several businesses here. And why do I bring that up? Is because I'm hugely optimistic. The demographic argument is there. The annual growth argument is there. We see the young population that's here. They're not only a lot of young people here, they're also very optimistic, and they're here to build their country. And that's what you see. You see a lot of motivation. You see a lot of interest in brands, in new things, in trying out new things. Cambodians love to travel, which means they love to try new foods too. One of the first thing young Cambodians do when they get a little bit of money from a job is they'll take a trip abroad, and that just shows the open-mindedness that is really here. And in fact, despite you might read different indices saying Cambodian business climate is this, Cambodian business climate is that, I think all of us sitting here would agree it's quite easy to start and run a business here in Cambodia. Absolutely. And there's a heck of a lot of opportunity and huge holes in the market. You just throw a stone at the business board, right? You're going to hit a hole in the market. And that is a thing that does not exist in the developed world. And previously in Cambodia, there just wasn't that economic engine. So there might have been a hole in the market, but there wasn't enough spending power. There wasn't enough ability of people to really to move around and do those things. But now that's simply not the case.
I'd probably like to see more American investment, because the American investment
Absolutely.
is not very strong comparative to. Although we buy a lot of goods, I mean, it gets exported to the U.S. We don't really have a big American business presence yet.
It's true, and while Cambodia is a relatively small market, which is just address that criticism up front, why people say, why would I come into a market of 16 million when right next door I have markets many times that. But it's also very easy to work here in Cambodia. It's a dollarized economy. There's no controls on exporting profits, on repatriating profits. Many people speak English here, including your workforce. And
actually, one of the best in Southeast Asia. I mean, bar the Philippines, I think this, from what I've noticed in Indonesia and Thailand and so forth, Singapore is Singlish. But it's one of the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So the ease of doing business here, I would rate it quite high regionally, having also done things in neighboring countries that proved to be much more difficult than they would be to do here. So I think Cambodia is a great place for a U.S. company who's not yet in Southeast Asia to get their foot in the door, to try things out here in this market, and then look to move around. Also, the geographic location happens to be sandwiched between two huge powerhouse economies, which makes distribution really good. And that young population, low-cost labor force, a lot of free land means you can put your factories here. And with ASEAN free trade, push that product
got
out.
a fantastic port and now building better and better airports. So if you're an American business or any business that you need to want to come into Cambodia, this is the place to contact.
That's right. And special economic zones.
That's right.
We'd get in trouble if we didn't mention those. But but they really are a pretty good deal. So
I'm going to give you the last job. How do you get in touch with AmCham? What's the website address?
The best way to get a hold of us through the website. So we're looking at www. Or do you need to do that anymore? Or
You do.
Still need to do the 3 W's, huh?
Oh, no, you don't need to do the 3 W's. You need to tell them what the website is.
AmChamCambodia.net.
.net.
AmChamCambodia.net.
And membership, you could file for membership.
Online. Yeah. Top right-hand corner.
very high tech.
Like that.
Or give us a call.
Give us a call.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you both for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
It was very informative. And Eric, good luck in your new position.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And Alan, you got another year on the board, right?
Yes, we do.
As chairman.
As treasurer.
That's right. So we have another year to even do more and more good things.
We will. And I'll say because of our good process, that will be my last year on the board. I got to sit a year out and make room for another very motivated and wonderful new AmCham board chairman to come in, and half the board will be replaced too. So if you're interested in getting involved, don't just join.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see you next Saturday on Cambodia Business Week. Have a great week, and thank you for joining us.